everybody, welcome to Anxiety, Depression and Mental Health Support. Tonight's video is on 5 agreements for communication. We have a couple who are having a challenge with communicating, both have depression and anxiety, and we're wondering that if they can make a good, healthy relationship with communication. And the short answer is yes, you can. The longer answer is it's going to take some structure. Okay, so in order for you both to be able to discuss your feelings and feel heard, you have to agree before you start sharing that only one person talks at a time. The reason why you're both becoming offended and defensive during your discussions of sharing your feelings is that you're both trying to talk at the same time. So what can start off as, oh yes, I relate to what you're saying, I understand what you're saying because you're both facing very similar challenges, ultimately becomes that neither of you feel heard, neither of you feel understood, and neither of you have had your needs met. Okay? That's why it starts to go down a slippery slope into being offended, becoming defensive, and not exactly being the kindest of people to each other. So I want you to think of an example. You know, Mary is home and she had a bad phone conversation with a mother that day and it hasn't gone well, and all day it's been going round and round and round in her mind and upsetting her heart. Her partner comes home and he says, you know, how are you going, how's your day? And she starts to unload. Now when he goes, oh, bing, you know, the same thing happened to me today. He says, you know, I understand. Oh, and you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. The same thing. He had a bad phone call with a client or a customer or anyone, actually. And then what happens in Mary and Phil's conversation is that Mary starts listening to Phil, completely forgets about what she was talking about, empathises with him going, oh yeah, you know, I really understand. And then both of you forget about what each other initially talked about, and because you have a feeling that your needs aren't getting met, and it just descends down into this slippery slope of no communication, both of you knowing you love each other, but you just can't cross the communication bridge. Okay, so I liken it to a bad tennis match where you both start off with good intentions to listen to each other, but then it becomes tennis, backwards and forwards, you're both saying anything, and in the end neither of you win the tennis match because it's gone nowhere, and both of you retreat to a corner, you know, thinking the worst of each other. You don't mean to, you don't believe it, but you go, well, wow, you know, that conversation went nowhere. What I did was sit down and work out the 5 agreements of communication. Now, in order to have good communication, you're going to have to learn to stop and set a time where you're both going to communicate. So if you had the same time each day or night where you could communicate. So let's just say, you know, he comes home or she comes home, you both get stuck into whatever has to happen, and then at 7:30 every night you both know that whatever's upset you that day, you're going to sit down and discuss it. When you do that, when the first agreement is to set a set time, so that you're not just ad hoc in the middle of nowhere trying to get your need met to be heard or to have a hug or whatever. The other partner doesn't know what's going on. During the time leading up to 7:30 at night, when you're going to sit down and have a chat, you're both able to focus on what you've got to do, i.e. get dinner ready, get kids ready, get ready for the next day, and both of you know that at 7:30 you're going to sit down, there's going to be peace and quiet, and you're going to focus on each other, just the two of you. Your next agreement will need to be who will talk first, and you need to agree on that because the other person's not going to talk, they're going to listen. They can nod their head, they can but they're not going to talk. Because the minute they talk, they're interrupting your train of thought. And this is why it becomes a discipline. This is why it becomes intentional communication. And with intent, when we set our intent, it's like setting a goal. We actually reach our goals. So your goal is that both of you can be heard and both of you can meet the need of the other person. The agreement on who will talk first probably depends on who feels it's most urgent, but just take it one day at a time. Even if you take turns each night hearing each other, that's okay too. What you also need to agree on is when you finish talking, that you're going to tell your partner what you need. So we all know there's differences in men and women, and we all know that we all have different needs, and we may not state our need at the beginning, but when we get to the end of talking, saying what's happened for us, how you felt, what's going on, you want to be able to state your need. Is your need that I need a hug? Is your need that I need some input, etc., etc.? You've got to tell your partner what you need, and then they stick to what you need, not what they think you need. That's very crucial with the communication, is they stick to what you need, what you have asked for, not what they think they need. So then they can't put across their opinion unless you ask for it. That's very, very important, because you might not want anything solved at this point in time. You might just need to talk about it. You have to agree that you're going to listen until the other person says they've finished talking. It's so important to become a good listener in a relationship. So sometimes we listen, and we listen to answer rather than listening just to hear what somebody's saying. Part of adulting in a relationship is listening to understand, so that when the person gets to the end of what they're saying, then you can meet their need, not what you think they do. Okay, so be a good listener, better than a good talker. It's the best way to go. And the fifth agreement is, if you need a time limit, do so. Some people need to go into having the mutual chat with a time limit because they've got other things to do, or it's just their personality, their nature. So maybe if you set a time limit for the first one to be half an hour, and then maybe if you're doing this on a regular basis, you could reduce the time limit to 5 minutes each. Who knows? As you do this, you become more aware of you become more aware of what you need, because you have to state what you need. We're not expecting the other person to be a mind reader, okay? So we stop expecting them to be a mind and heart reader, and we actually state what we need after we've spoken with them. Now, I know you can do this, and what I will do too is put a Word document down in the comments below, that'll be there shortly, so that you can put the 5 agreements of communication up on your fridge, up on your bedroom wall, wherever you need it, to remind you both that you're going to have communication with intent, so that each of your tennis matches will not happen anymore. There'll be no offensive things said, there'll be no disruption. Both of you can get your needs met. Now, don't worry if it doesn't work out the first time. Everything in life takes time to get a smooth, even rhythm to it, but I know you can do this, okay? I know you can do this because you want to do it for each other, and you want to have the best relationship possible. Let me know, put your comments down below if this is going to help you, and I wish you all the best. Okay, thank you, bye.